Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. We're really pumped about having you here because one of the things that we've been talking about for the several, or like, I don't know, it's probably been 6 weeks leading up to the spot. We're talking about the market cycle and how things are shifting in the market cycle and how you need to be ready and prepared to use the different strategies that are available to you to really grow generational, pass it down to your children kind of wealth, right? And so in this topic, as we've been showing you so much of what strategy works where and how this works and how that works, one of the most interesting kind of feedbacks and things that we get from that is that everybody who comes in wants to wholesale or do rentals because that's what HGTV has told everybody exists. Through our experiences, through the people that we know, through what we've done, through all of that network that we have, we are able to kind of give you an insight to the realities of what wholesaling, renting, Sub2 wraps really are. So today what we're going to be doing is focusing on not just the market cycle and what you should be doing on one side versus the other side of the market cycle, but also your career cycle and when you should start peppering in certain strategies in your career cycle. So when we get back, what we're going to be debating about is the Sub2 wrap versus the rental and how you should be looking at both of these strategies to work for your ultimate goals at the end of the day. We'll see you right on the other side. All right, welcome. What's up, Mr.
Man?
Daniel Moore?
Not much, enjoying my day. I'm gonna come up here and just.
That's a lie.
I am going to keep the mental clarity of there is zero pain in my body, and I will perform as though there is nothing wrong with me.
So Daniel just got a tooth pulled yesterday. Which tooth was it? It was up here.
My top left.
Sent me a picture of it. It was blacker than the soul of your ex-wife or whatever you want to say. It was black. It was terrible looking.
It was
and
painful.
He's a Mr. I don't do painkillers kind of guy, so he is feeling the brunt of it today. So thanks for being here with us.
I'm enjoying every second of it, man. It's what I live for.
All right, so today, as I said in the beginning, what we're going to be talking about is we're actually going to be debating because I encourage you, if you haven't seen already the series that we've been talking about getting to this point, go back and watch this last, I think, 6 weeks, right? I think it was 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere in 5 or 6 weeks.
Some serious content being dropped.
That we've given you some real content on how to look at the different cycle pieces. There's everywhere from stage 1 to stage 6 and what you should be doing in each one of those cycles. Well, in that discussion, we've been discussing how to get in and use different acquisitions models and how to use different dispositions models and how to put things into your portfolio that you may want long term. And the feedback that we get, and one of the things that we know from just the communications that we have with everybody out there, is that everybody gets into real estate investing knowing two strategies. They want to either wholesale or buy rentals because that's what HGTV has told them about. And we like both of those strategies. I want to be very clear with that because we're going to kind of take sides on this and fight for one side versus the other side.
Grant, you're stupid.
Yeah, and you're an idiot too. Love you, baby.
That's what we're trying to say is that basically, Grant, you're stupid.
So we're going to debate the merits of what should you be doing? Should you be wrapping these notes or should you be renting these notes? And this first segment right here, we're really going to take the fight for the Sub2 wrap, okay? And this is going to be one of the areas that I have built my stuff off of. The Sub2 wrap is really what I view as the best way for you to get into this strategy because, you know, we asked a question on week 2 or week 3 just to kind of see where everybody is. Like, let's talk about not just the market cycle, but your career cycle. What stage of your career are you in? Are you in stage 1 where you're just trying to get that first 5 or 6 deals done? Or are you in stage, 4 where you're starting to look at the end goal here and say, okay, I need to start wrapping these things up because I want to back out and be able to just do what I want and have the money coming in? Like, what stage are you in? I'd also like for you to comment with that today. Tell me what stage you're in right now. Comment on YouTube or on Facebook of what stage of your career are you in. Now, when I got in, similar to a lot of people's stories out here, is I didn't have money. I don't come from a family with money. I don't come from a family who did real estate. Nobody in my family did real estate. Nobody in my family, I say nobody. I have like an aunt and uncle that have done really well for themselves. But I didn't have access to any of that money. I'll put that there. So when I got in, my search was like, how do you buy real estate without having any money? I was making 50 grand a year at an IT job doing automation stuff. Not bad, right? Being told that my matched 401k was all I was going to need for retirement, and it just didn't sit right. So I get into real estate. How do I buy houses without any money? And the thing that popped up that was attractive to me was buying subject to and then turning around and wrapping it. You want to explain what Sub2 and a wrap is?
I can come in and hit that real fast. So subject to is a really simple, it can be used for acquisitions or dispositions, but 100% you want to be on the acquisition side using Sub2. But Sub2 means I'm basically in the simplest of, let me get this out there terms, saying, hey, I know that you own this house and that you've got a payment that needs to be made on this house and you can no longer afford that payment. Why don't I slide in there, you give me the house, and I'll start making your payments on your behalf moving forward. That's like super simple. It can get a lot more technical than that. The straight up answer to it is, I'll buy it subject to any existing liens or encumbrances. But if I say it like that, nobody out there is really going to follow on to it. But all it's doing is saying, I'll take ownership of the house and I'll start making your payments on your behalf. So going through is talking about Sub2 and then a wrap. So if I purchase it with a subject to, I now own the property. I have somebody else's house payment that I'm going to have to make. I have to decide what to do with it from there. One way that we can move forward and get rid of that is what we're going to do is called sell it on a wrap. We create a brand new mortgage. I'll have a new buyer come in, say buyer Smith. Buyer Smith comes in and says, I want to buy that house from you. Well, what I can do is I can create a new mortgage and Smith pays me. I pay the mortgage that I took over subject to, and I now have a wrap mortgage.
Right.
Is that fair enough?
No, yeah, absolutely. So the phrase that you may hear us say today is taking over on payments. It's easy for us to say taking over on payments. I want you to go back through and go to propelio.com/academy. I've got an entire freaking 37 video module on subject to wraps and creative financing that will teach you everything you need to know to get that done. And as a matter of fact, next week, 1 week from today, we will be having a show with Josh Dees and Sonia Ray, two people who are just A, incredible people, and B, who went to the academy and watched the videos and went and took down a bunch of deals. And I want to put that in front of you guys to show you that how possible that is. So if you've got questions on the strategy itself, on the technicalities of that, go to propelio.com/academy. You're going to learn all kinds of stuff there. We've got stuff on the Sub2 wrap. We also have people out there telling you about how to do the rentals, right? So we're not going to talk so much about the technicalities of doing these. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of doing these, right? So I'm going to say taking over on payments. I never want you to say taking over on payments to your seller. I want you to say making payments on your behalf, just like what Daniel just said, because there's an air of responsibility left in that. They need to understand that their name is going to remain on that loan even though their name is being removed from the deed of the property.
Can I toss something on top of that? Because I have this conversation often when I'm at meetups and stuff of that nature, and I'll say something along the lines of, we'll make payments on your behalf. And somebody in the crowd will automatically stand up and say, oh, I know exactly what you mean. You're going to assume their mortgage. Absolutely not. We're not just talking about assuming their mortgage. Assuming someone's mortgage means you call up their lender and go through the full qualification of getting that loan taken out of their name and put into your name. We're not doing that. We're not assuming their loan. All we are doing is taking title to that property and making payments on that person's behalf. The loan remains in their name. So it's not an assumption of mortgage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out. So as we start going into this next shift of the cycle, which all of the guys, and here's the thing, you know, I talk to more and more people that are doing big deals. And hands down, I mean, we were talking, well, maybe I shouldn't name names. Hands down, we've talked to several people who every time we bring it up, and we will say it this way, and they're like, absolutely, I agree, it is. The onesie-twosie people have no idea that the market shift is happening. It's the guys who are doing hundreds of deals a year that are in the background saying, whoa, 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 something's going on, right? So that's the benefit that you guys are getting from listening to this. So as we go through this market cycle, and I know we've got the graphic here, so we can push this up just real quickly to show you guys as an example again, we feel very strongly that if you look at the top of that first hump there, and there's that line that separates stage 6 peak from stage 1 early downturn, we feel that we are on that line. That is like exactly where we are in this market cycle. And we go through each of the stages in the last, I guess it would have been 4 weeks or 5 weeks to explain those. But one of the constants that we have in teaching this is that we both agree that subject to what we just described to you is going to be an excellent way to get into your property. I never want you to sell a house with Sub2. I never want you to buy a house with a wrap. Sub2 is a great way to get into this property. Now, what do you do with it from there? You have some ability to wrap that mortgage. Basically, essentially what it boils down to is you bought with owner financing and you're selling with owner financing. Or, because Sub2 is an acquisitions model, You can acquire Sub2 and turn around and rent the property. You can acquire Sub2 and put it on the market to wholesale it. You can acquire it Sub2, fix it up, put it on the market for a flip. Acquisition, Sub2, disposition is what we're debating today. Now, the question becomes, should I dispose of my properties, get rid of them, and start making money based off of a wraparound mortgage or based off of a rental? And my argument is the wraparound mortgage is what everybody thinks the rental is. Rentals are not what you think they are. My argument is that the only time you should get a rental is if you do not need to make money from that rental. That's my argument. Rentals are fantastic for what they are, but they are not the income producing beasts that you believe they are. And as I've struggled with this over the years, as I talk to so many new investors and so many people getting in and listen to the ideas of what's going on there, is I feel like there was kind of this false association. And I feel like what's happened is that everybody watching this video knows somebody who's rich and has rentals.
Well, I'm going to argue to a point because you're like, rentals are not what people think they are. Mm-hmm. I would throw the caveat in there that rentals are exactly what people think they are. The way you were taught to do rentals is not what you think they are. So rentals are 100% cash flowing assets that can produce serious income for you and the lifestyle that you desire. But if you're being taught that we're going to go out there and purchase these things leveraged out as max as they can, and we're going to get them cash flowing $250 a month, that you're going to sit there and retire off that. Right. That $250 a month times 10 properties, $2,500 a month, isn't going to retire most people. Mm-hmm. You're going to need 30 or 40 of those. And then when you do hit 30 or 40 of those, that minuscule cash flow being received off that property every single month is really nothing more than just escrow for future repairs. Mm-hmm. It's not true cash flow. But if we do go in and we start boiling down and we're not just doing what everybody's telling us, going out and buy anything you can buy that has $200 a month in cash flow, you need to be taking a look at the actual rent ratio. You're not wanting to buy things. And what I mean by a rent ratio is, what does the monthly rent coming in look like in comparison to the purchase price? If I purchase a property for $100,000 and my monthly rent's $1,000, I got a 1% rent ratio. I see people buying at decimal point rent ratios. They're buying at a 0.5 rent, a 0.6, 0.7 rent ratio. Those are catastrophic for a new investor. Mm-hmm. There are investment strategies for a very advanced investor to buy properties like that. We're not talking about that right now. If you're going out and you're trying to buy $200 or $300 a month in cash flow, don't do it. That's not what you're gonna live off of.
Right, absolutely. And that's kind of my argument for where wraps come in so nicely. It's because with a wrap, you are the mortgage company, okay? So the problem that he's mentioning here is that a lot of people think, what most commonly I hear is people are getting $400 to $450 of cash flow and they feel really good about that. But they're telling me they're getting $400 to $450 of cash flow, and when I dig into it, it means that they're paying $600 to a bank and they're getting $1,000 in rent. You are not getting $400 of cash flow if that's the case. That is your gross cash flow. That is not your net cash flow. And I know several people in the rental space, and I'm open to this. So like, I'm not an expert in rentals. I don't want to pretend like I am, but I know several people in the rental space who've done a lot of rentals, and they typically come back and say that their expenses that they're having to account for are somewhere between 25 and 30% in maintenance and repair. Because you're having to account for vacancies, you're having to account for repairs, you're having to account for just, your stupid tenant slamming a sliding glass door and having to spend $1,000 on that, right? That happens, you're not cash flowing for 2 more months. So you have to start averaging out all of your cash flows. Your gross may be $400, but your net may be $50 or maybe negative. But not enough people have the advanced accounting or the know-how of how to account to actually do that analysis and to say how much they're spending in maintenance repair, and to say, hey, if I averaged out this last 4 years of owning this rental with the gross income that I've made versus the repairs that I've made, my actual expanded realized cash flow would be X. Very few of the people who are going to come into this business actually run it to that level. And they just see $400 hitting their account every so once in a while, and it feels really good, and they feel like they're cash flowing.
Well, let's talk about why you would suggest wrapping over rentals, because and I have done this for years, argue that it's situational, but I would say more often than not, rentals is the better disposition strategy, or at least the hold strategy, than a wrap. I mean, why would you press that wraps are prevalent? Why would you say that?
So there's a few reasons behind that. One of the things I want you to chime in here, give me a digital hand raise or a like or the this emoji if you have a mortgage on your house, okay? Or if you've ever had a mortgage on your house, okay? If you've ever made a mortgage payment on your house, I want the this emoji or a hand or a like or something like that at this point in time, or comment, I have a mortgage or I've made mortgage payments, okay? I want to see that. So we're going to have a lot of, and we're on like a 2-minute delay, so we're going to have a lot of people raising their hand to that. My next follow-up question to that is, how many of you who just digitally raised your hand or mentally raised your hand, because no matter what I say to you, you're not going to actually reach over and click a button. There's those people too. How many of you have ever called that mortgage company and told them that your toilet was leaking? Nobody. Because Wells Fargo doesn't give a crap that hail just tore up your roof. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to have truly, and I hate using this word because this is a guru word, passive income. We all understand, anybody who's really done the business understands there is no such thing as passive income. There are only varying levels of passive, okay? What people think rentals are, most of the time when they're in that stage 1 or stage 0.5 or stage 1.5, which is the majority of the people who typically comment, they want to call rentals a passive income. They say, I want to get some passive income in there, so I'm going to be doing rentals.
I don't think I've ever met a landlord that was like, this is passive.
Right.
Especially when they got 50 units in their portfolio.
The other joke that I always make is the only people that love rentals are people that don't have rentals. Because it's true. I mean, the people that have rentals will love what they do for them, but will hate the rentals most of the time, right? It's
right.
Like, it's just how it goes. We just understand what it does for us. So the wrap, you don't have to deal with tenants, toilets, and trash. When you're in these stages of your career where you are, Wrap Donut, there's a callback for us, going back to watching the first 10 episodes of Grant Teach Me Something there. If you are in a wrap situation, what this allows you to do in these early stages of your career is churn and burn assets.
Well, you just said something that I disagree with considerably, and that is, and for everybody that's out there watching now, let me preface this. You said when you're in your early stages of your career, wrap will allow you to churn and burn these things where you're not having to worry about tenants, toilet, and trash, because you know those things cost money, they cost headache, they cost. A rental portfolio costs you. I don't believe that anybody that's at stage 1 or stage 0.5 of their career should really be considering doing subject to at all. It is, in my opinion, one of the most opportunistic, litigious strategies out there. You have a long-term relationship established with a seller. You have a long-term relationship established with a new buyer. You have performances that need to be met in between for a long-term strategy. I don't think anybody that's just out there is like, hey, I got $500 and I want to start in real estate, should even consider subject to. And that's where I've debated with you on this before.
Right.
And I'm not trying to throw you under the bus on this, but like, why would you recommend somebody that's brand new, doesn't even know how to wholesale, consider wrapping a mortgage?
Yeah, so because that's how I did it. That's how I made my money, right?
Okay.
Is I didn't have money, right? So we'll talk about how that happened, and there's several things that went into that. I've been really blessed, right? And I want to give credit where credit's due, and I'm sorry to speak Christianese for you for a second, but God really opened a lot of doors for me that I think that not enough gurus and educators give proper respect to luck, okay? I think that there's a certain level of luck. There's a certain level of aspect of luck that's involved with getting successful in real estate.
I like to argue that.
Well, but here's the argument. So I've partnered up with Ronnie Walker, who's just a freaking beast. Lead gen operations, that kind of stuff. If you've read Traction, he's a natural born integrator. I'm a textbook visionary. We partnered up literally. I mean, in this last 6 days. So we partnered up. We hired an acquisitions guy. In this last 6 days, we've contracted 9 houses. Okay. Outside of the, it's been a whirlwind.
But I don't consider that luck.
So his take on this, I don't either. His take on this is, yeah, okay, because I told him that. He goes, yeah, okay, luck is involved. But did you know, like if you were to roll the dice once and you rolled double sixes, that would be pretty lucky, right? But if you roll the dice 36 times, you will get double sixes in one of those. So you do get to control your luck.
And I to a point agree with the luck aspect. But I've heard too many people try to discredit someone's success by saying, well, they got lucky. I believe, and it's been said more than once, that luck is opportunity meeting preparation. I have a lot of lucky moments. A lot of people have lucky moments where there's opportunity in front of them, but they have not trained their mind to see that opportunity and execute upon it. So unless you have the right mindset when opportunity is presented, the luck never occurs because the mindset's not there. So it's opportunity meeting preparation.
Absolutely. And so for my story, so that you guys know where I was able to get started with this, is so you've got to take, and we've talked about this. Go back and watch the Grant Teach Me Something called Yin Yang Partnerships, because I talk about this very, very deeply and that's several episodes ago. But you need to take a self-inventory of what your pros are and what your cons are. And then you need to start systematically figuring out how you're going to overcome those cons. So for me, I wanted to get into Sub2 wraps because I'm very much a tomorrow money kind of person. I don't want the transactional money that a wholesaler gets, which is nice, but it's a job, right? I didn't want the hassles that came from rentals, and I saw opportunity in the Sub2 wrap because I didn't have to have money to get in or to get out of it, and it made a lot of money for me. Now, I guess let me just put it this way, because in the interest of time, right? Like I could go way too deep into these strategies of how I was able to put this together. But the key moments here, the key points, the highlights of how I think that a stage 5 or a stage 0.5 person can get into this, because I quit my job with $6,000 in the bank.
Okay.
And I had done one deal.
Well, then let me ask you some questions on that, because like you've got $6,000 in the bank. You're doing better than some people right now. But let's just say we do have 6 of them. Well, we got $6,000 in the bank. I go out and I take over property subject to. I have committed to that seller that I'll make their payments on their behalf moving into the future. I don't have a whole lot of experience. I go out there, let's say I don't paper it up properly. Let's say I do paper it up properly. I then turn around and sell it on a wrap. I now have a seller that is depending upon me for their mortgage, and I have a buyer that is depending upon me for their mortgage, and I'm sitting in the middle of these two, uneducated and illiquid. I do have $6,000 in my bank account. What happens whenever my buyer stops paying? All right, now the buyer stops paying. I still have an underlying mortgage that I have to make a payment on. That buyer stops paying. I do still have to go through a foreclosure proceeding on that. Hope to God we're not in a judicial foreclosure state where I'm spending 2 years trying to accomplish this and the legal fees incurred during that. But I'm still having to make the house payment on that during all that time. Do you recommend that person go out and start doing subject to wraps?
I do, because here's the thing. I did, right? So the first step that I did.
I don't think you did.
I did. Well, so
let's talk about that.
Okay, so let me back up. The one deal I had done, because I didn't know anything else. I've come to learn this is called house hacking. Is this what you're referring to? Is my
No, I'm just referring to Sub2 wraps as general.
Right. So what I did, my very first thing was I bought a duplex, lived in half, rented half. Okay. Then I started looking at how do I make this my job.
Okay.
Sub2 wrap is what popped up. The first thing that I did was find out who the attorney was I needed to be talking to with this stuff.
Okay, that's a good step.
So I researched, found out Scott Horn is the guy in Texas to go to for subject to wrap. So I went to him, I talked about the strategy, got some tips, and went out and marketed. Okay. Found a deal. Then the next step was I didn't just take that deal down. I didn't go under a 5-day hard contract. What I did is I contracted it with a 60-day option period. And in the contracts, it very explicitly gave me the right to market for a buyer during that 60 days. So did any capital leave my pocket at this point?
No.
Okay.
And you're not really talking about the risky part of the transaction. The risky part of the transaction is 9 months in.
I'm getting there, though. So I spent the next 60 days looking for a borrower. Now, I was able to find one in a week or two at that point in time. So I found a buyer. Well, this was $115,000 house, something like that. I don't know. Let's say $100,000 house. Okay. So it's a 10% down payment. I paid an agent 3% to find me that buyer.
Okay.
So I got a $10,000 down payment. I paid $3,000 to an agent to find me the buyer. I paid out of my pocket for the whole thing about $1,500 to $2,000 in transactional fees, like closing costs. And therefore, I netted $5,000 from the deal, walking away from Horn & Associates with a check for $5,000 in my hand. Did I spend that $5,000?
I
No.
assume not.
Absolutely not. That $5,000 goes into your bank account and does not get touched for your first several deals, okay? Because down the road, you're responsible for making this payment. If you've stared somebody in the eyes and said, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to continue making this payment on your behalf, you need to honor that. I'm huge into honoring your word and doing what you said. And from a purely just, from a business aspect, we know that getting the asset is one of the hardest parts of the business. For you to do something to screw that up and lose your asset is stupid. So you put that $5,000 away. Well, the payments to the bank were somewhere in the $400 to $700 range. I think it was like $786 a month. Okay. At that point in time, we didn't have some of the Dodd-Frank rules that we do now with now they need to be 120 days late before you can start that foreclosure. So your foreclosure process from start to finish, from their first missed payment to they are leaving your house, is probably going to take 6 months. One of the reasons why I encourage you to stay in the lower price point houses, I have a hard cap at $250. I don't like going above $200, and your sweet spot is between that $80,000 and $150,000 house. That changes per market. Basically, take your median, you want a quarter to a half of that, that's your sweet spot, try and stay in there. I got $5,000 in the bank.
Okay.
If I need to cover 6 months of payments, I need to spend $2,000 to $3,000 out of that $5,000. And it's going to take me $1,500 to $2,000 to foreclose on this person. So that $5,000 covers my responsibilities that I may have on that. And oh, by the way, in that 6 to 9 months, I was profiting $600 a month on cash flow. Okay. So now the deal has paid for itself. I have basically broken even on this particular term. And the beautiful thing is, now that you've foreclosed on that property, you get to go sell the property again at an appreciated amount with your underlying loan having been paid down, and get a new 10% down payment and start a new 30-year loan, which actually ends up making you a ton more money. So we need to go to break, but that was the high points of it, right? The big point being the 30 or the 60-day option. Hell, I just closed on one last week. We got a 90-day option on. If you're unsure of if you're going to be able to do this deal, get a long option period. It's only in your mind the reason why you can't. Everybody, you think that you can get a 7 to 10-day option, and they're like, holy crap, you're getting what? We contracted one in Tennessee yesterday with a 60-day option on it that we're taking over. They're not behind on payments. We're not giving them any cash to close, and we got a 60-day option on it, right? You get these option periods to allow you to find that income before you have to take on the capital expenditure. And then so the high point being the big option period. And so I did that deal on my own. I did one more deal on my own. And then I partnered with somebody who knew what the hell they were doing. And that's where the JV comes in, and that's where my business exploded, and that's the high point of that side. So let's follow that on the other side of the break. We'll talk to you then.
Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
You want to buy more houses. Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at creativecashflow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. creativecashflow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only
I'm still in my name. Hey, so we're coming back on this, and we were just kind of debating back and forth. Should a newer real estate investor really be diving into Sub2? And I believe that Grant is correct. Yes, a new real estate investor most definitely can jump into Sub2, but I believe there are caveats that need to be exposed, because I'm scared when I jump into some of these Facebook groups and I see someone with zero experience, doesn't even know what a security instrument is, what the collateral is, what the notes are. They don't have a clue what any of this is, and the very first thing they start thinking about is, well, let's go do subject to. We talked about in your previous scenario, yeah, that's how you jumped in and you did your first 1 to 2 transactions, flying solo.
Yeah.
And you took your down payment from the wrap sale and you used that as an escrow for future problems, such as defaults on payments, foreclosures, etc. What happens if we do have that and your scenario plans out and it sounds clean, but what happens whenever that wrap buyer bails and pours concrete in my sewer? What happens when that wrap buyer bails and throws rotten meat in my air conditioning system? What am I supposed to do then? And the reason I argue so much against a newer investor doing this is if you're going to take on the risks and the responsibilities of a 30-year-long transaction, you better damn well be capitalized and understand what the risks down the line are and how to address them. I'm not scared of risks. Risks don't make a damn thing to me. I just need to know how to address the risk when it occurs. So what are you going to recommend to somebody that's at stage 0.5? They got their wrap buyer bailed out. They got their $5,000 in escrow and they use that to evict and, foreclose and handle the arrears on the payments coming through. What are you going to recommend to them whenever they show up to the house and the place is full of concrete?
So let me turn that around on you and say, what do you recommend to the landlord whose tenant gets mad that they got evicted and pours concrete in the sewer?
I say the exact same thing. Rentals and Sub2 are for stage 4.
Okay.
Rentals and stage, I don't really consider that to be stage 1. You can do them stage 1. Most definitely. There's a lot of people out here right now that's like, shit, I did stage 1 and I've got 50 of them now and I'm doing great. Where I argue the point is that yes, you did great. The risks involved with what you did. If you got your very first one and you got somebody that pours concrete down your toilets, then you're in trouble.
So let me say something first and foremost. So I'm super, like, if you guys get to know me, like, my creative executives group is the mastermind group that we have, and I'm very open in the creative executives group because there's stuff that, like, just straight up, like, I just can't trust to say everything on YouTube because I don't know the people on the other side of the screen, right? Like, when you're in the creative executives group, I have a hand in understanding, like, hey, these guys aren't going to take this information and do it dumbly, so I can open up a little bit more on some of the things there. And so as you learn how I structure my private money, how I structure my acquisitions, how I structure my dispositions, you will come to find that Grant Kemp is and this is like the stupidest thing to ever say on YouTube.
Then let's just not say it, man. Like, I'm not trying to pinch you into a corner.
No.
What I'm trying to drag out of you
let me put it this
how
way.
to do it right.
So my knock on wood version of this is Investor 1 basically has zero liability in this deal, personally, okay? If you have structured it correctly, the human being investor basically has zero liability in this from a legal standpoint. Now, I'm going to say that, prefacing it with what I said last segment of do the right thing. If you're looking at somebody in the eyes and you say you're going to do something, freaking do it, right? One of our core values, and you really need to sit down with this and figure out your core values. I know it's stupid mumbo jumbo corporate stuff, but it matters. You hire and you fire based on your core values. One of our core values is that we're going to do the right thing, especially when it's not in our favor, okay? So that very much applies to this. However, that doesn't mean that we can't have our legal boundaries set. And it doesn't mean that we can't protect ourselves at all aspects. So from your point, I'll risk everything. I got no problem with it. But I do have a problem with risking everything if there was a way that I could have done it without risking everything.
Okay.
I'm very risk aware. My student, the reason I brought up the creative executives thing is he was like, everybody's like, dude, you are super risk adverse. And he's like, nah, he's not risk adverse. He's risk aware, right? And that's where I like that phrase.
Okay.
So your question is, we foreclose on somebody. Everything's been torn up. The crazy thing is, and so guys, I know people that have done stupid amounts of deals. So like Eddie Speed, I'm doing a one-day event with him tomorrow. I would love for you guys to be out there. We'll drop a link for sign up in that. We're going to provide lunch for you and we're going to go into some crazy, like, interesting stuff that, like, we just need to tell people in person. So sign up for that. It's going to be, I think, $30 or $40. Like I said, we provide lunch. It's all day. Eddie Speed's done 40,000 notes. Mitch Steven, Mike Powell, these guys have done 2,000 to 5,000 notes in their own portfolio. Scott Horn, he's done 10,000 to 20,000 notes. Myself, I haven't done 10,000 to 20,000 notes, but I've done several hundred, okay?
Right.
And I've been on about 1,400 HUDs doing this kind of stuff. The weird thing, 99.9% of the time that you get a house back, it's in better condition than when you sold it.
Okay.
That is one of the odd factors that you wouldn't necessarily realize going into this strategy coming out of it. Our demographic that buys with a wrap is much different than the demographic that buys with bank financing because they're putting 10 to 20% down, right? They're just a different demographic. It's not to say you're not going to have people tear your house up, but I've never taken a house back from somebody who's torn it up, and our default rate is under 1%.
Okay.
So even in that note, and I'm talking, I mean, we've got what, collectively 100,000 notes of people that I'm behind closed doors close with, right? Like that we're like telling each other our bank account balance is close with. Less than 1% of a default rate. That's minuscule.
Okay.
So even in that risk, it's very limited. If you got into a situation like was just stated, there's lots of things that need to happen. Either A, if you've got equity in that house, you don't have a problem. What you have a problem with is getting the right person in your corner. If you're not properly capitalized, well, guess what? I am. Reach out. Maybe you can split the deal and I'll come in and be your money guy.
So let's rewind that back, because you're starting to get into where I try to make sure that I steer people towards. You just said something that I think is incredibly important to a newer real estate investor that is trying to jump in this realm. And I do not say don't do it. I just say don't do it stage one. If you are stage one and you want to do it, then escalate real quick to stage 6 by doing what you just said. Find somebody else that is capitalized, and then you become a JV partner, you become a partnership in the deal, and instead of trying to fly solo, let's say you love the creative financing strategy. You have watched all of Grant Kemp's videos and you're like, man, this is exactly what I want to do. I don't want to be doing rehabs. Rehabs make there's no desire in my heart to get out there and do a rehab. But I want to do creative financing. Am I telling that person right now that you absolutely should not do it? No. What I am saying is that you need to take the advice of what this man just said, and I think you glazed past it in a speed that the people watching may have not caught it. The advice you would give is at the point in time you got in trouble, to do what?
Find somebody who can get you out of it.
Okay.
If you have equity, you don't have a problem. The problem arises if you bought wrong, right? If you buy wrong, that sucks. But either way, and we could go on for hours on this, but the simple side of it is, and we need to switch over to rentals here shortly to kind of talk about some of the benefits there, because I think you guys are getting a good idea of this. But I blew up because I did a self-assessment, and I realized that every deal takes time, knowledge, and money. Okay? Ronnie throws in leads. Right, obviously. That shows you why he's better at leads than I am. So every deal takes time, knowledge, and money. Which one do you have? Find somebody that has the other things. I had time, so I found a dude that had knowledge and money. And I leveraged my time for his knowledge and money, Scott Horn, and we went like gangbusters. Within 6 months of my quitting my job, 8 months. Within 8 months of quitting my job, I was averaging 8 houses a month in acquisitions.
Badass.
You don't do that without somebody who's well capitalized both in knowledge capital and with money capital. You don't do that, right? Now, I did those first couple of deals on my own, but I quickly recognized, hey, there's a lot to this, and I need somebody to help me out. So if you're looking for that JV partner, I'm not trying to hawk too hard. Find somebody. I don't care who it is, if it's me or not. But guess what? CreativeCashflow.com/JV with me. I'll JV with you on deals. I need some information put in on it so that we can make our decision, but that goes straight to my team. And we just closed one last week that's making $700 a month for the JV partner bringing it in. All he had was a warm lead that he thought might work for us. We contracted it. We got it taken down. He had to do zero on the entire deal, and it closed last week. $700 a month coming in with equity, right?
That's solid.
Pretty solid stuff. So find somebody that knows how to handle that stuff. That's really how you skip from stage 0.5 to stage 6, and then you build your own foundation to stand on. The way I've always put it is I was able to build where I was because Scott gave me the foundation to stand on. Now that I'm in a position in my career to be other people's foundation, that's one of the big reasons I started Creative Cashflow. That's one of the big reasons I started doing the JV thing, is now I can be somebody else's foundation so that they can be saying, hey, I've done 1 million deals in a few years, right?
And that's why I wanted to really bring that in, is because I 100% believe that you can jump in and do wholesaling without a JV partnership, without a mentor. You can really get in, bootstrap, and figure that piece out. But if you're going to get in and you're going to pick Sub2 and creative financing as your entrance into this industry, then you solid 110% need a mentor on your side. I would say that bar none, that if you're going to do this, you're going to look a seller in their eyes and sit there and say, I'm going to make your payments moving forward, and then you're going to turn around and take somebody's down payment and sell that house to them with a wrap. You need to have the knowledge and you need to have the capital backing you to make sure that that transaction plays out well, because it's A, ethical, and B, it's going to save your ass in the long run.
Right.
So I think that that's the point that I'm trying to make is that partnership is a key piece to growing with Subject 2, and then we can move on and we can start talking about the rental side
absolutely.
of stuff, because
Let's hop
I think
over to
we've
the rental.
talked about the wrap part of it for a while now.
So to wrap up the wrap is I 100% believe that you in stage 0.5 or stage 1, especially understanding not just your career cycle, but the market cycle, which watch the last 5 weeks to understand that in this next cycle, guess what? Owner financing is the way to make the most money on it and to acquire and that kind of thing. Just get into it wisely. That's all we ask, is get into it wisely, find out how to do things the right way, don't screw it up by getting JV partners, by getting your education, whatever that might be. And I 100% believe the wraparound is the way to go for your first stages, because I think that rentals are a nightmare for somebody who is not able to get in there and handle everything as a seasoned investor. However, you have always argued with me. See, because I argue, my whole point of that saying, somebody who's rich who has rentals, I think the false equivocation, if that's the right way of saying that, is saying, I've seen rich people that have rentals, therefore you get rich off of rentals, and that is not true. My argument is you get rich, then you get rentals. And I've had you argue that back to me before where you disagree, where you think that you can get rich off of rentals, and that's just not my stance. So you want to take a little bit on the rental side?
I would gladly jump in on that, because I have seen plenty of people get rich doing rentals, but I do believe 100% that comes with the knowledge of correctly applying the strategy. If you're out there right now, we're 2019 today, and you're sitting here saying, you know what, I just watched an infomercial and I'm going to get rich doing rentals. You are in the wrong market cycle to be trying to get rich using rentals. If you're going out there acquiring stuff, and let's say you're getting all in at 80 cents on the dollar on your rental acquisition, you got 20 cents of equity sitting there on the sidelines, you build up 25 of these and you're sitting here screaming, wow, I've got $600,000 in equity, I'm rich. And then 9 months from now, the market shifts. You've got a negative 300,000 in equity. The rental market's dropping, and you're not getting as much out of your rentals as you thought you were. The income and the rentals are starting to spread in their gap. No, you've got a problem. Mm-hmm. Where I saw people make massive amounts of money in rentals was when the market hit the bottom. Now, we talk about tenants, tools, and trash, and that comes with the right strategy at the right cycle and the right business model. If I am acquiring properties as rentals and I take them over and I do nothing with the deferred maintenance, I just take a tenant, throw it in there, you are going to have a wild ass ride as a landlord. Why? I'm not going to attract quality tenants. If I have a crappy house and I'm trying to get good money for it, no one's going to come rent from me. I need to make sure that I have the best product at the best price on the market so I can attract the right tenant to take care of my property for me. I've got good financials, I've got solid property, I'm not going to be worried about the tenants, tools, and trash because the property's already been remodeled. Now, if I acquire all of these at the right point in the market cycle, which is at the bottom, if I am purchasing all of these assets at the bottom and I have gone through and I've updated the air conditioning systems, the hot water heaters, made sure that the plumbing was good, remodeled, made it a nice property, I shouldn't need to worry about maintenance for at least 5 to 7 years. I've already covered that all up front. And if I purchased with enough equity up front that allowed me to do the adequate remodel that I should, now I have an asset that's been remodeled. I've got the best tenant that I could buy at the best price, and I've got that person in there hopefully for a long-term tenant. I can use that hopefully for 5 years to 7 years and ride out the next wave of appreciation while simultaneously collecting my rents, which if I did do all the repairs up front should be accurate cash flows. My maintenance repair escrow shouldn't be as much. I can collect amortization through the pay down of my debt. I can collect depreciation through my IRS schedules. I can collect inflation to hedge against the dollar going up against my money. I've got many different ways that I can capitalize and make money off of that one rental versus a note. Like the note that I can see with the wrap has great benefit if I am looking at the asset and the asset is not in an appreciating neighborhood where I would not want to own the asset. So that's where I argue back on rentals from.
Yeah. And so one of the arguments, so to take that appreciation, right? So many people will take the argument of, which is true, right? Because the rental does appreciate, hopefully, over time. That's ideally how the rental's going to work for you. So your net worth is going up over time, and people will see the note game and say, well, but rentals appreciate and notes don't, and that's not really true either. So like for instance, a sub-2 deal, if you are doing a sub-2 of a property that is, let's say it's at, because most of the time, on average, we're taking over on a loan that's at 4.25%. Most of the time, on average, we're taking over on a loan that has somewhere between 22 and 28 years left on it, okay? And let's say that we're at 80 cents on the dollar on both of these, okay? So an $80,000 house. First of all, show me where, as a 0.5 stage investor, you are getting the capital to take down deals as rentals for 4.25% on 20-year money, right?
You're not really going to be able to do that.
Not going to be able to do that. Second of all, so like the argument of I've known people to get rich off of rentals, my argument coming back is those people already had money because you're not getting capitalized by a bank.
How much money? Like if we are talking about the bottom side of the market cycle, and if you've been in this market long enough to have experienced this, you can chime in and give me your thoughts on this as well. I was wholesaling all through 2010, 11, 12, 13. I was doing that, and most of my buyers were landlords. So if I'm going out wholesaling to landlords, I'm able to see these HUD transactions. I know what the cash out of pocket for these deals are. And if you were also investing in 2010, 11, and 12, you were also very much aware that you could go out to the MLS and just pull deals down all day long off just the MLS. There was that much inventory out there. It was a solid buyer's market. We did not have nearly as much competition in the market. So I could go out on the MLS and I could take down deals. If I'm actually out there sourcing my own deals outside of the MLS, sub 70-cent deals was not a problem. So getting these in on the Burr method at that time, using a Fannie Mae loan, I could acquire 4, bump up and get the next 10. I could get 10 properties at a lower interest rate with my personal credit, and my cash out of pocket, even with me wholesaling, the average cash out of pocket I was seeing people pay in 2010, 11, 12 was around 7 to 10 grand.
Okay.
So like we
you get
can
rich off of that. Do you have $7,000 to $10,000 to do per property? And B, are you getting 4 loans from Fannie Mae making $40,000 a year at your job?
4 loans, Fannie Mae. So yes, you can. And that's where we're talking about. We're talking about leverage. Once I've got that rental property on my balance sheet as an asset, I can show the cash flow from it. It is no longer being counted towards my liabilities. Although it is a liability on my balance sheet, the cash flow coming in from it is considered to offset that liability. Therefore, it increases my debt to income ratio. I knock down that first one, and then I go through and I do my second one, my third one. No. My first property costs $7,000 to $10,000 cash out of pocket to acquire. I go through, I do my refi, I do everything else. By the time it's on the backside and I cash out refi at 80 cents on the dollar, I might actually be putting a check back into my pocket. That check getting put back into my pocket gives me the opportunity to leverage for number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And if you're doing something like sub-2 rentals, then the opportunities are even further limitless because I am acquiring with somebody else's existing debt.
Yeah, and that acquisition model, and that's why, again, the ability to get in without any money was so significant because I'm a dude who just quit his job, has no job, and is buying 8 houses a month. Fannie Mae limits you at 10 period,
yeah, you're not
right? You're just not going to get that, right? So just to go back to the appreciation aspect, yes, the properties over time do appreciate. I've seen that firsthand on properties that had I held them as rentals, my net worth would be significantly more on those. However, that's not to say that your note does not also appreciate, because when you're buying a house subject to and you're paying a loan that has 22 years left on it, 4.25, you start that loan at, let's say, $80,000, right? We're saying it's at 80 cents. In 5 years, that loan you're paying on is going to be paid down to $67,000. Well, you've sold the house with owner financing, a wrap. You took a $10,000 down payment, so you get cash in your pocket right up front, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 right up front, and then so their note starts at $90,000. In 5 years, they will have only paid down to $86,000 with you. So you're looking at your net worth will still grow with the note game because of the fact that you're paying at a lower interest rate than you are being paid. So your spread is still occurring. In this example, we paid $13,000 down on our underlying lien in the same amount of time it took our borrower to pay $4,000 down on us. So in 5 years, even though it might not be the hugest numbers,
you're seeing equity spread build.
We're still seeing a build in our in our net worth.
Okay, so let me, because I know you and I have been debating this back and forth a little bit, and I want to make sure everybody out there right now completely and totally understands, and that's why we said this up front. We are going to intentionally take positions that we might otherwise not take to show you the debate between the two. Grant is well aware of the things I'm talking about. I'm very much aware of the things Grant are talking about. We're taking the positions we're taking so y'all can see opposing sides of the argument.
Because we both have rentals and wraps, for the record.
So where we are doing this is so that y'all can see where two creative minds can collide on different opposing points of opinion and still have their stance as a logical point of view. So where I would come back and say, yes, I am seeing the spread on my underlying mortgage and my wrap mortgage growing over time because this one's getting paid down at a faster pace than this one. So therefore my net worth is actually growing over time. Some of the things that I would look at is if I'm looking at that as a long-term strategy, a fear that we have, rightfully so here in the United States, is the devaluation of the American dollar through inflation. If I am now sitting as the lender on these notes and I am now getting paid with inflated dollars, the value of the dollar I receive today is not the same as the value of the dollar I receive 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. So while I might be seeing an increase in the value of the difference between my underlying note and my wrap mortgage, I may actually be taking a huge loss through inflation. Because if I'm going 10 years in...
I disagree only because that's going to be a factor in both strategies. Your inflation is going to matter on both strategies, and in one,
I would argue that.
In one strategy with the wrap, you are setting and saying, I know what my return is going to be, right?
No.
With the
Do you know what's going to happen to the dollar?
But
in
that's
5
a constant.
Years?
That's not going to be an argument for one or the other because that's a constant. We can't
But
say
you
that.
can't change your note. You can't change your principal and interest payment.
But you
Whereas
don't know
if I'm
what
a
your value is
landlord,
going to be on in the future with the landlord either.
but I can always adjust my rents.
Not if the market won't hold it.
Well, that's a different piece. That has nothing to do with inflation.
But if
through,
you're gonna say my future value is why I'm mattering of what my strategy is going to be today, then we have to look at the future, right?
Okay.
So my future of a rental is uncertain. We can hope that everything goes up, but it is uncertain. The future of the dollar is uncertain. With a wrap, I'm locking in my profits right now, and I know I'm making $400 a month unless I have to foreclose on this person, which even in the downturns averages out to be less than 1% of foreclosures, right? So like we're getting in more of a locked-in income on a wrap, whereas we are hedging our bet that the uncertainty of the rental's value and rent rates, your argument being, I think that those will go up even if the dollar is going down to such a degree that we are still getting a net positive from it. However, it's an I think. We don't know that the house prices are going to go up because, oh, it could happen again. You know what I mean? Whereas with the wrap, we know what we got. We're locked in.
Okay.
So that's kind of, if we're going to look future, we got to look future, right?
Okay.
Now the big thing that rentals do offer you that I cannot argue against is the depreciation on your IRS schedule.
Okay. So some of the things we've touched base on so far is amortization. I think you get the benefit of both. On a wrap, you get an amortization because your underlying mortgage is being paid down faster than your wrap mortgage, so you're going to create a yield spread there. As a rental, the amortization, my tenants are paying off and buying myself a house. So if a long enough time scale, I've owned that house free and clear and I didn't have to pay a dime to buy it. So we're looking at that. We've talked about inflation. I think I would politely disagree to a point that I believe that if the hyperinflation does occur, values of everything goes up, like a candy bar goes up, gas goes up, home prices go up, inflation kicks, things go up. But one of the things that we didn't talk about, and you just brought up, was depreciation. Depreciation, whenever we start talking about rentals, gives you the ability to offset other income through a phantom loss. What do we mean by a phantom loss? Can you explain that for us, or should I dig
Go
into
ahead.
that?
I can totally explain it. I was just...
So like with the IRS, as funny as this is, whenever you take on real estate, they consider the real estate to depreciate in value annually. You can go through accelerated depreciation schedules, but essentially that the value of that asset, a single family home, over the course of 27 and a half years, I believe is what it is, over the course of 27 and a half years, the IRS says that that home is worth $0. So if I buy it for $275,000, I get to write off every single year $10,000 of that home's value against my income. It's depreciating, depreciating, depreciating. Well, what that happens is if I've got 20 of those $275,000 homes depreciating $10,000 a year, I can write off $200,000 a year in losses against my other income. So one of the creative things that you will see advanced stage 4 and 5 people doing is acquiring large amounts of real estate assets to negate their earned income or their alternate income. That's why you'll see a lot of doctors and stuff just willy-nilly buying a bunch of crap rentals, because the depreciation will offset their income. And I will be able to say that while I actually made $400,000 this year, I took a $28,000 loss because of depreciation.
The trouble with that, the only trouble with that, is that you do have to realize that depreciation loss at the end when you're selling the property unless you 1031 exchange it.
Yep.
So there's a little bit more like complication on the back end of that. But again, that is something that you most definitely do get with rentals that you most definitely don't get with the note side. That is a definite benefit to that. So I think we've hit some pretty good points on this, right? Like rentals do have their place. We like rentals. Heck, you know, we talk about that because of Ronnie and I, with the stuff that we're doing, like, hey, dude, we got to convert a couple of these over and just do them as rentals strictly for the cap gains that we're going to be hitting on. We need this depreciation to hit for this year, right? So that's why proper tax planning comes in, having a good CPA in your corner, that kind of thing. The rentals do give you appreciation in the right zip code that you are pretty confident in the appreciation of it. It's kind of good to hold those things back because that does turn into a little bit of a forever money. Now, granted, my version, just to expose my position on this, I don't want single family rentals, quite frankly. Single family, I'm doing wraps. If I'm going to go the rental route because I want depreciation and because I want forever money, I'm going the commercial route, storage units, that kind of thing, right? I don't want single family rentals. I don't want to have to lose every year or two a month on, every year or two a month of income because of a vacancy or whatever that might be. And so you do your repairs. Every good landlord I know says the same thing. 5 to 7 years, I don't want to have to touch this. But we don't get to control the insurance deductible on the hail damage that happens to our roofs. We don't get to control that just crap happens and your AC goes out and now you're out $4,000. Whereas that on a wrap would be the owner's problem. That's now your problem because you're the owner. But there's huge benefits to the rental. There's huge benefits to the wrap. When we get back from break, what we're going to talk about is let's tie it all together and let's show you on the graph exactly kind of where we view you should be holding things, and we're going to reintroduce, in a much more condensed version, of course, the 7-year flip strategy that Daniel has introduced to us in the past couple of episodes. So stick around, we'll get with you on the other side.
Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
You want to buy more houses? Here's Dar and his wife after only 2 weeks of being my mentor student. And here's Brady after paying attention to all our online videos and attending all the live Q&As. You want to buy more houses? 3 steps. Sign up at creativecashflow.com/memberships, watch all the videos, attend the live Q&As, and then send me a photo with you and your sweet, sweet new contracts. creativecashflow.com, helping you buy more houses for one low price of only
All right, so before we get too far back into it, I do want to just give a quick shout out and thank you to Propelio for putting this all on, guys. If you have not visited Propelio.com and become a member of it, you are not taking your career seriously enough. You need to see what Propelio has to offer because they're giving you national leads, they're giving you national comps, you've got websites. I mean, everything that you need to take this from a, hey, I'd like to be an investor to, you're actually investing, you're going to get that through Propelio.com, and it is stupid amounts less out of your pocket every month than it would be if you were trying to get all of these services separated out. And even if you did, I mean, I'll tell you straight up, I had MLS access that I just let lapse because I was only using Propelio for my comps anymore. They've just done a better job at putting that in front of you. So check out Propelio.com for that. Secondly, tomorrow, Eddie, Speed, and myself are doing a one-day event. We put a link in the comments for you guys, so please click sign up. I'll provide lunch for you. We're going to do it from 9 to 3:30 in the afternoon. Again, every time I'm around Eddie, I learn some little crazy thing where I'm like, oh, holy crap, I didn't think about doing it like that. To be in a room with somebody who's doing 40,000 notes and to be in a room with somebody who has the bragging sheet points that I do as well. That's what it's about. You've got to get in front of the right people. The reason I'm sitting here with the successes that I've had is that I put myself in the room with people who are more successful than me. So please click on that. I'd love to see you guys out there so we can talk more on that.
I'd echo that over 10x, man. It's like my success that I have here today, and a lot of people can say, they're independently wealthy, they're self-made millionaires, whatever they want to say. I can raise my hand and jump in on that crowd as well. But I can never negate the point that I would not be who I am today. I would not have achieved the success that I have achieved today had I not done what you just said, and that was putting myself in the right rooms, because all of the knowledge that I'm dropping right now is not Daniel Moore's wisdom. It's Daniel Moore sat in the room on a round table with people that were infinitely more knowledgeable than I, and I just soak it up like a sponge. I sit in that room and I just listen. I'm like, okay, that's smart, that's smart, that's smart. Well, let me just take all these smart people and fill my mind with the smart people thoughts, and then you see where I'm at 10 years later. All of the success that I have achieved came through putting myself in the right room with the right people. That's infinitely important.
Yeah, absolutely true. So yeah, I really look forward to seeing you guys there. I think it's $40 or $39 or $49. I don't know what it is. It's 40 or 50 bucks. Daniel's about to die. We're gonna keep this backside of this last episode or this last segment short. But what we want to do is, can we bring back up the graph that we've looked at with the cycle of the market? So again, what Daniel and I and the others who are really doing it all seemingly agree with nationwide, is that if you look at right there where that line is that separates stage 6, the top peak, the first peak on your left, that line that separates that peak with stage 1 early downturn, that's where we are. All the way through stage 3, your biggest friend is going to be the subject to acquisitions model. Now, you're going to have certain areas in there where a wrap is better or a short sale is better. Down at the bottom at that stage 3, that's where, yes, you should have been making enough money off of your stages 1 and 2 to where you can absorb any of the fears that I have put out about rentals and start really putting some forever money and some rentals into your portfolio. The 7-year flip cycle, or the 7-year flip strategy that Daniel has taught us, that I think is a brilliant strategy, is you are buying your flip inventory at the bottom. That bottom stage 3 is where your flip inventory exists. So you're going to make money on that stuff all the way through stage 4, 5, and then up at the stage 6 is where you get to truly capitalize on everything that you've done leading up to that point. And I will tell you that you may only be noticing right now, hey, I bought a house at stage 3 that was worth way more than it is here at stage 6. But also, you're going to be able to do some major capitalization on the sub-2 loans that you bought and on the wraps that you have through hypothecation, through refinances, through note sales, all of that kind of stuff. Stage 6 is a period in time where cash is available and you have big opportunities to really capitalize on everything you did from stage 1 through stage 6. So please go back through and watch those last 5 weeks where we dissect every single stage to tell you exactly what's going to work best for you on that. We want to give a big shout out to the Propelio event that is this Tuesday. It's going to be Tuesday evening, starts at 5, typically goes to like 9 or so, something like that, 9. I will be your MC. I will be dressed up in costume, so you just wait to see what I am dressed up as. It's not going to be it, although I can't appreciate enough the photoshopping that has happened on my face there. But we've got some really solid speakers that are going to be talking to you guys. Some guys that have done thousands and thousands of deals, responsible for millions and millions of dollars out on the market. So you guys are going to learn some great stuff. It's free to show up. You're going to get fed, I think, right?
Yep.
You're going to get fed, you're going to get drinked, and you're going to get to network. And I'll tell you what, I've gotten all of my biggest relationships at events just like this, and the Propelio event is just nationally one of the best events that you're ever going to see. We have one very important thing that we have forgotten to do so far, which is...
I have not forgotten to do. I was waiting for the opportunity to do so. Wanted to say hi and thank you to my wonderful daughters, Tyla and Zyla. Daddy loves you. Can't wait to see y'all later tonight. And my wonderful wife for holding down the fort for like she does for me all the time. Love my wife, love my kids. Thank you all. Y'all are my foundation. Y'all are everything that I do this for. So yeah, we've got the Tuesday event, next Tuesday, October 8th, Propelio event. This weekend, we've got Wholesaling Live down in Houston, October 4th, 5th, and 6th. That is Elizabeth Navarrete's venue. We're going to be going down there supporting her. So we've got all those things going on. The title of the show is When Should I Buy My First Rental? We said all that up until now. The cap of it really is you should buy it, in my opinion, stage 3 of the market cycle. And it does not matter what stage of your personal business you are in, whether you're just now starting or you've been doing it for 50 years. If you have just now started, partner up with somebody that knows what they're doing. Stage 3 of the market cycle is where you should be diving in deep. And if you do that, I can see long-term wealth being generated and generated rapidly through rentals. Right now is not, in my opinion, the time to be doing rentals unless you want to hold it for another 12 years.
And I'll give you a quick rule of thumb from somebody that I know who manages 15,000 plus rentals and is able to run a lot of analytics on that. If you are buying a rental to make money on that rental, again, because my position on rentals is rentals are amazing if you don't need to make income off of that rental all day, because you get, like, the depreciation is not an income thing. It deals with other stuff. The appreciation is not an income thing, right? If you need to make cash flow on that thing, that's where I'm not a huge rental fan. However, from running the analytics, what he said is there's a very, very solid line down the middle that if you are going to expect to cash flow from that rental, your rent payment, the rent that is being received needs to be double what your debt payment is on that property.
And you need to handle all repairs up front.
And you need to handle all the repairs up front. So if your rent is double your payment, then you have somewhat of a chance of making some cash flow on that deal. But all the other things that are benefits to it are going to be benefits to that. So guys, thank you so much for joining. And you actually have one more event, right, to announce. I mean, you're going to be all over the place.
Yeah, I'm hitting the road hard over the next 6 months, but coming up next week after the Propelio event on Tuesday the 8th, if you're unable to see me there on Tuesday the 8th at the Propelio event, we'll be talking about scaling your business, learning how to build and establish teams around running the traction model. We're going to be discussing all of that in depth on October 8th at the Propelio event. If you missed that, I will be going down to I'll be going down to San Antonio, Home Buying, Home Selling Solutions. We've got an event Wednesday from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. I'll be speaking there on market cycles and deal acquisition. I'll be going down there, and I'd love to see anybody there. So if you're watching right now, you're anywhere in the Texaplex area, and you want to get in and just see me in person, speaking on the market cycles, speaking on acquisition strategies, I'll be there with Michael and Charles Hernandez, and I look forward to doing that.
That's
Excuse
awesome.
me if my brain is just not on.
Yeah, pain will do that to
I've
you.
got a gaping hole in my jaw right now, and like my pain tolerance is starting to get to me a little bit.
All right, so just to cap on the events, we've got me and Eddie speak tomorrow, which I would love to have you guys out there. If you're in the DFW area, please sign up for that. There's a link that's been dropped in there by Ronnie Walker and by Propelio. We have Wholesaling Live this weekend.
October 4th.
This weekend, October 4th. We have the Propelio event on Tuesday. And the home buying, home selling guys are putting the event on the next day down there in San Antonio.
Down there on Wednesday.
Would love to see you guys there. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to comment, like this, share this, send it out through Messenger to somebody who you think may need to see this message. But I hope we've been able to enhance your life. And if we have, please give us some feedback because that really helps us go. We're just talking to a camera here. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you
Awesome.
next week.
Have a good one.